Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm Abrar Hussain, working as Junior Research Fellow at University of Karachi. I'm presenting my lecture entitled Scientific Writing Beginner's Guide from the platform of Sindh Biotechnological Association as volunteer. The objective of this presentation include the concept of scientific writing, what is scientific writing, and how the idea developed about the scientific writing. And if someone is interested to write something or to do some scientific writing, so what is the process of scientific writing and what is the format of scientific writing? So we will discuss this. And what are the characteristics of the scientific writing? If, for example, someone is interested to write something scientifically, so what characters he or she keep in mind while doing writing? And last is the once we are doing some scientific writing, so we must follow some research integrity and research ethics. That, for example, we don't claim some result fabrication or result falsification. So what are these and how we can avoid this? So let's begin. What is scientific writing? So, very generally, scientific writing is a technical form of writing which communicate a scientific information between the researcher or the one who is performing the experiment and the other community or the other people which are not directly or don't conduct the experiment. So, and this is mostly in the form of written form. So, it may be in the form of a research paper, review article, or maybe the form of book. So, it is also considered a precise way to explain what is done by the researcher, how it is done, and how or what the researcher get, and what is the benefits or the conclusion of their research. It is also a clear, simple, and well organized communication of the transmission of new scientific knowledge between the researcher and the scientific community. So the purpose of why we are doing scientific writing. So the purpose of scientific writing is the communication between the researcher and the scientific world to inform from the new scientific finding, new scientific discoveries, and new scientific invention. So this may help to the whole community once this scientific writing is more clear. So clarity is the main thing in scientific writing. The concept of scientific writing was developed once the ancient people says कि if knowledge is lost without written record, if you don't write a knowledge, it must be lost. So it's very accurate at that time, and they started to write their information in different format and different substances. But later they realized that knowledge could not be widely circulated with no effective duplication. It's mean we are writing our information, but it remains restricted to those persons which are directly related to that particular copy. But if we have more copy of that particular education or particular information, so definitely it will help a lot of people. So for this purpose, first scientific journal formally was published in 1665, and after that, currently there are multiple of thousands of journals available online, and the information available online, and everyone can benefit from this. So this is the concept behind the scientific writing. Now, if someone is interested in scientific writing, so what are the types of scientific writing? It's mean what are the ways in which we can communicate to the other scientific community. So these may be in the this publication type or scientific writing may be in the form of research paper, original research. The result of original research may be stated in maybe in the form of review article. It may be in the form of some research reports, maybe in the form of letters to editor, etc. And maybe in the form of notes, for example, data notes, for example, research notes. So these are different forms, and it's maybe also in the form of communication and some specific issue which are mostly called by the editor-in-chief of the journal to write to inform the scientist to write a specific issue. So these are multiple forms in which a researcher or a scientist can convey their message to other scientific community. Now, this is just the concept behind and the form of scientific writing. Now, what are the characteristics of scientific writing? If, for example, we are interested to write one particular form of scientific writing, so what things must be added or included in that particular types? So, characteristics of scientific writing include precision. It's mean that the scientific writing must be properly stated and precise in nature. It must be very clear, as I already described. That must be peer review. It's mean they can give extra beneficial property or benefits to the author, that the data or the information that he or she claimed is valid and it is validated by the peer of the particular subject. It must be the someone is interested in scientific writing, so they must be keep in mind the primary audience to whom I am writing and who are the audience of my the reader of my research paper or research article. So while writing a scientific writing, one must use a formal English language, and that must be free from any kind of jargon, of any kind of words which have some double meaning, have some ambiguity. So they must use a very easy and simple formal English language. Uh, this is the organization is the another characteristics of scientific writing. It's mean that someone is written everything in very proper, concise, and precise way, but they don't organize them in a proper way. So the message which he or she wants to convey is not properly stated. So the properly organized scientific communication can convey their message very accurately. And the existing awareness of existing knowledge, it's mean once we are claiming something research or some results, so definitely we can fit or we can enhance this our result by claiming that the particular result or same kind of result were also performed or also get by that particular author. So we must give credit to the existing knowledge, that our idea and our research article or research is just derivatives of their particular topics which are already in exploration. So these are considered the characteristics of scientific writing, major characteristics of scientific writing. There are also besides some feature characteristics in scientific writing. For example, once we are doing to organize our scientific communication, it must be organized in a logical way. For example, first be introduction, then material, and then results, and then discussion. So it must be organized in a logical way. There must be some evidence which we are stating, some data, some reports. So it must be properly cited that yes, we get this information, but the source was already described and already cited. And if we use some unusual term or the term which are not common to the scientific community or are not common to our audience, so it must be properly stated. And it is the beauty of scientific writing that it's mostly convey or it's mostly restricted to one particular type of research, a particular topic. So it must mean it's monologous narratives. There are also some rules which, for example, the in scientific writing, there must be nouns and adjective are more, but the verbs are will be less. And their sentence structure must be not too long, not too short, but it is in a moderate length that convey the proper message in a proper and concise way. And the most important, there must be no any kind of emotional word and sentences in a scientific writing, irrespective of their form. So these are considered some kind of feature and characteristics which can help the researcher or the person who are writing and interested to do something writing scientifically. Now, as this lecture is for beginners, so there are some tips for scientific writings for beginner. For example, the first one is before you start writing, just ask and arise a question. What am I trying to say? It's mean that by writing this material, it's research article, review article, whatever the form of scientific writing is. So, what am I trying to say? What is the mean and what is the purpose of my writing? To whom I am communicate. So before the starting the writing, you must say why I am writing and what is the purpose of my writing. So this question must be in our mind. But once we complete our task and complete our full article, so at the end we can say just arise another question. Have I said it? It's mean what we are, what the question which we arise in the beginning, that to whom I communicate or why I am writing this. So should I write this or should I clearly communicate their particular points or not? So keeping in mind these two questions must give us and confidence and must give us a strength that we can write properly. There are some basic rules which are also keep in mind while for the first time doing a scientific writing. For example, we can write for communication, not for any kind of impression that we can impress other by our writing or by our result, but we just convey what we get irrespective of their positive or negative results. We also follow some the instruction of the journal or the instruction of the format of the particular journal or the university or the organization for which we are writing. We also use a good model. For example, we can also use a good scientist as a model. We are following in their scientific communication, or we also use some general, which are high effect vector and most advanced. So we can also use a good model for our scientific writing. Then we can collect information from various sources, although there is plenty of information available, so we can just collect information. Then we can organize them in very concise and precise way, that we can filter all this information and can get what we are required or what the question we are arise. So all this information will be filtered. Then we just also give some specific time from our daily routine, that at that particular time I will write some scientific communication, and the rest will be our other routine. So we have some specific time. Also keep audience in our mind to whom I am writing and who are the reader of this article. So this also must be keep in mind while scientific writing. And critics source adequately. It's mean that from any source which we get, from the source from which we take information, must be properly cited. And once we complete all these things, we must revise our manuscript or our article, that what we written and what was the question beginning, and have we said or have we can claim or fully understood that question or not. So there is a consider some splitting rule. For example, once we are in mood to do some scientific writing, so then we write, then first draft is very difficult and very time consuming. But once we complete our first writing, then revise that first draft for 2 or 3 times, and so you can neglect all the possible mistakes, and then we finish the scientific manuscript for the first time. So if we now we can finish our all scientific writing and irrespective of their form. So what are the process which we can use for scientific writing or for the further procedure of scientific writing? So mostly they are use emirate pathway. This emirate pathway means the first part will be the introduction, what question or the problem was studied, and what was the method, and what result we get, and what is the discussion. Discussion means the result which we get, what it means. It's have some value or not some value, or for example it is correct or not. So we can analyze our result in the form of existing literature. So this is just introduction. This figure which showing that first of all we can select a topic, then we can create and develop or find out the knowledge gap between the existing literature and our result. Then we can do action. It's mean we can perform experiments, and at the end we can get some result, and we will describe it in a proper way. So once we are getting information and we do all these things, what format we use? So in scientific community, there are multiple formats are used, but it must be properly and according to the general or according to the organization. For example, if we are presenting some scientific posters, so it must be 48 points, and per presentation of slide, it's almost 36 points, and per mostly in per just text, we can use 12 points. But this format is not remain same. It may change with time, and change with time also, and change with the organization and the form of, and also change with the type of scientific writing. So once we are doing all these things, one thing more which is most important in scientific writing is ethics in scientific writing. It's mean that once we are doing some scientific communication or some scientific claiming our results, so we must follow some ethical background and some ethical integrity of their particular, which is associated with their form of writing. And also we can so these what are these scientific writing ethics? So first of all, that we can assure that the research which we are communicate is error free with the best of our knowledge, and it's gain credibility and support from the public. So most the ethical issue which are associated with the research or scientific communication is the plagiarism, that we copy the information of others more. So it's called it is called misconduct of research. We can for example we can use our data, or we can claim our data in a wrong way. For example, we can just say some result or research falsification. We can involve some fabrication, or we can just get some negative result, but for showing or for obtaining our degree, we just claim them as a positive. So all these things go to are in the common frame of scientific ethics. So we must follow that our scientific communication is free from any kind of violation of scientific ethics. It must be properly stated. So now we can write the scientific information and scientific communication. We follow the format, we follow the process, and we also follow the ethical concern. But now what we will do with the scientific information. So the last step is the once we are doing writing and complete our writing after revision is the submission process. So where we submit our article, definitely we can submit some journal. So finding a suitable journal is also considered as a um, task, and also as very considered as a mind-blowing step in the scientific communication, because if we select a good journal, so definitely we will get its credit. So we can also select a journal by multiple ways. For example, first we will see the topic of my paper within the scope of that journal or not. We can also take help from our seniors and from other researchers. We can also go to the journal main page, and we can also check the same factor in other substances. So once we find that our result or research article is related to that particular journal, we can submit our other. So in conclusion, we can say that scientific writing is a clear, simple, and precise way of writing that communicates scientific information to other in a documented form. Scientific writing have different forms, for example, review article, research paper, and lab reports. Write for communications, keeping audience in mind, organization, and use of formal language are the key feature of scientific writing. Mostly for the process of scientific writing, emirate pathway or emirate method is used, and ethical aspect of scientific writing include, for example, avoid plagiarism, confidentiality, accurate and unbiased result must be stated. So thank you with this.